Does anybody have anything that they would like to pull or anything? Can I please then have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody have anything that they need pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, then can I have a motion to please approve the consent agenda?
You think internet's working well here? I think the other day, when you get the agenda.
Yeah.
It worked.
I got it the other day.
Okay. Can we approve the consent agenda?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay, all in
Can we get a
favor?
second?
I'll second.
Okay. Next, we move to items pulled from the consent agenda, and that would be our donations. We have quite a few donations tonight. We have a donation from the Bank of America for the Hendrick Hudson High School and Blue Mountain Middle School. And I believe that's a Bank of America employee matching funds campaign. So that's for $24 for each building. So whoever donated, thank you very, very much for that. Our next one is to approve, one is a little bit different, approve a donation for 14 yoga mats from Allison Bernstein, and we thank Allison very much for the donation of 14 yoga mats. I'm sure they'll be put to very good use. Next, we have donation of a sewing machine from David McAvoy. We thank you very much for your donation of a sewing machine. And do we know where that's going? Is that to the high school, middle school? Okay.
Middle school.
Thank you. Next is 1,000 golf balls from Mr. Kevin Connolly. Hopefully, whoever uses the golf balls will definitely have a good time playing golf. And a good game besides.
Yeah, the golf team plays at Hollowbrook Golf Club. And
Yes.
if you've ever been there or played there,
It's a tough course.
you need a lot of golf balls.
Don't even
It
recall
is
that.
not an easy course.
That is a
though.
very relevant donation.
Yes. So we thank whoever donated those. And next we have donation for the Barber Katzenstein Scholarship Fund, and wonderful family. And Barbara Katzenstein was wonderful to work with, I will say that. The Office of Special Education received a donation of $550 to pay for partial summer camp funding for students with significant handicap conditions. So we thank Barbara's family. Every year, they are so generous to our special ed department, and it's so deeply appreciated. I can't thank them enough. So on behalf of the Board of Education, a wonderful family. That being said, can I please have a motion to accept the donations
So moved.
presented? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
And thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Next, I believe we are on to audience comments. No, well, still. Each speaker will be permitted 3 minutes for their comments and must be recognized by Roseanne. All comments will be directed to the board. The board will listen to comments and input, but will not necessarily debate or discuss these items. Operational matters will be directed to school administration for handling. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session. The board will limit repetitive comments in order to give everybody a chance to speak. And I just want to say that these conditions that we put on public comments, they are determined by New York State School Board Association, and we are following the lineup and the directives of the New York School Board Association. So if people are having questions why we've decided to implement these things, there's a reason behind it. I can't believe I still have my sunglasses. It shows what kind of day it's been, so I apologize. Next, we have Superintendents Report.
I'll be brief before I turn it over to Margaret and Lisa and then our presenters. I'd like to congratulate the cast and crew of Legally Blonde. They put on a great weekend of performances. Incredible. 4 shows on a beautiful weekend, and they were full. I typically go on opening night. I went on Sunday, I went on Sunday afternoon.
Opening night.
And interesting to see the level of enthusiasm is still there. I think by the time the kids get to the Sunday matinee, it's all adrenaline, and then they take the set apart and get rid of it, and then they go to bed for about a week. But it was an outstanding show, and congratulations to everyone who had their hand in it. We are on spring break next week and into Monday the 22nd, and as soon as we return, it will be basically May, and that kicks off our academic awards time of year. So it's interesting to see the emails fly about National Honor Society, National Junior Honor Society, scholarship committees are meeting, so on and so forth. So before you know it, it's going to get really, really busy very quickly with a lot of evening activities and opportunities to recognize our outstanding students. Speaking of recognizing some of our students, we've put together and published a few more podcasts on our website and social media. I've had the opportunity to meet with and speak with some of our musicians and artists and athletes and kids who are achieving fantastic things that typically aren't always reported on or aren't a part of a state test. So if you haven't listened to those, you can find them on our website. We have a few more that we're going to do over the next few weeks. And lastly, the art show is ongoing at the Hendrick Hudson Free Library. We will be there on Tuesday, the 23rd of April for our annual BOCES budget meeting. But that also is the artist reception. So if you haven't been over to the Free Library, try to make it. Otherwise, we'll see you a little before our board meeting starts on the 23rd of April for the artist reception. Juice, cookies, the kids will be there, their parents will be there, and all of our art teachers. So that's an outstanding opportunity to showcase our young and inspiring artists. And with that, I'll turn it over to Margaret.
So, last time I think we met, Lisa spoke about some very significant progress that kids are making in our ICT classes with their skills approach and the iReady Assist.
I see it.
So, I'm going to share with you a little bit about iReady in the Gen Ed population. So this year, we provided the ELA lessons for each student in the school district, K-8. And I am very thrilled to say that exactly what iReady told us would happen is happening by having the kids use the lessons. There's great improvement across the 3 elementary schools, moving kids up from the very bottom. Our most struggling students have moved up, mid-range students have moved up and moved back into core instruction. So we are very thrilled to see this happen. It does help in the 2 schools that have the one-to-one Chromebook initiative, but Frank G, even without a one-to-one initiative, has done a great job getting their kids on, getting them in lessons. Many of the kids, this is a program they can use at home, and many of the kids are using it at home. Mm-hmm. More time on task equals more progress. And our reading teachers, actually led by a conversation with Penny Hine, who is going to present at their national, I won't say national, at their Northeastern conference later in the school year, has done a nice correlation study between the progress in iReady, the progress in F&P, and how that relates to instructional work that's going on in the classroom. So really, a couple of factors have influenced this, but I don't want to overlook the amazing work that the elementary teachers are doing, improving core instruction, which is the driver of the improvement. This is a complementary piece, but nonetheless a data piece that we can hold on to. So good on everybody.
Lisa, you want to?
We just completed our ICT review, so that was completed last Friday, so we should have a written report pretty soon, so we can talk about what PD would be for the upcoming school year, any changes they recommend, but that again will come to you guys as well, so you can see that. We currently have completed our new K-12 counseling plan that's required by the state. We're a little bit ahead of everybody, which makes me very happy that the counselors have been working very hard with the mental health teams. So that has been finished. I'm doing some last minute edits before we get ready to send it to the state for approval.
Next, we have committee reports, but I am going to wait. I know. I will not forget about you, Lisa. But we do have, oh, thank you. Next, we have the privilege to have a presentation by our science research students. So I will turn podium over
Am I
to
speaking here or over there?
We'll go right at the podium. I'll have Jim introduce everyone.
Mr. Mackes.
Mr. Mackes wants to
And we'll
kick
get
things
out
off.
of the
Yeah, I'll get out of there.
yeah.
Sure,
we
so
all will
as you
get
can
out
tell,
of
Dr. Rogers is extremely excited when she gets a chance to talk about science research, and that's okay with me because you have some really, really, really smart people. Not that you guys aren't smart, but there's some really smart people in the room tonight, Thea and James. We always love the opportunity to talk about our high school, and we again appreciate the support that the board gives us to be able to offer these opportunities to students. We wouldn't be able to do this stuff if it wasn't for your support year after year. These are programs that are integral parts of our students' lives, especially those that choose to go out on this path to explore science careers. We have had tremendous outcomes from our graduates, and I think Christine's going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to sit back and try to understand what Thea and James will eventually talk about. I challenge you to try to understand some of the words there. You try keep it simple for the principal. So I'm going to hand it over to our favorite science research person, Dr. Rogers. There's only one. Thanks for pointing that out.
Well, welcome, good evening, guten Abend. And just in case we have our sister school from the Lakota tribe watching us tonight, I'm going to greet them. So I'm going to say, Mitakoyeki, Shante Washte, Napesio Zapelo. Thank you. And so I put together a very comprehensive PowerPoint that describes all the curriculum and all the things we're doing. I am sure that you may fall asleep if I actually present everything, but this is a very good reference for you to have, to take a look later, and I'm going to present about half of it and show the most important things that I believe are quite important for this program. This is a program that is talking about putting the students in the driver's seats of the projects that they are doing. And they are choosing their projects, they are not imposed on them. And so they are really limited by their imaginations. And so it is, and that's what I tell my sophomores. Any crazy idea that you have, that you would like to try, this is the time and this is the place. I begged so much my sophomore to make an insulin pump for my cat, but nobody took the bait and wanted to try to do that. But I thought that was a good idea. But anyway, I'm just saying that because my favorite vet is watching. And sadly, that didn't happen. Bernard Chandron says that to be fully alive and fully human and completely awake, you have to be continually thrown out of the nest. And this is really what we're doing in science research. I think that there is a number of students, they are really, really great students, and they have learned, I had to say, the system very well. They are sitting in class, they're taking their notes, they're learning for their test, they're taking their quiz, they're taking the exam, and they do very well. Or they get their paper, and the teacher grades their paper. If they don't like the grade, they make a little bowl of their paper and pitch it in the garbage and forget about it. And I'm just the one to break this idea a little bit, and I want them to teach me what they are learning when they do their own research. It is completely a student-centered class. I very rarely step to the podium to talk with them and teach them directly. I do a lot of one-on-one teaching, but this is completely student-centered, and they're thrown out of the nest all the time. So those are the achievements we obtained over the years There are quite a lot, so I'm not going to go into all of the details that we had, but the top students was Jonathan Chung, whose father is here tonight, who was a STS finalist. There are about 2,500, or there was this year 2,500 applicants to the STS competition. 300 were semi-finalists. We did have over the years 4 semi-finalists, which is quite a lot for a small program like us. We have only about 15 students, or 15 to 20 students generally in the class. And out of those 300 finalists, you had 300 semi-finalists, you had 40 finalists that were chosen. So it is a pretty big deal to be a STS finalist. They give scholarships to the students that arrive. The one that placed first get $250,000 this year. That was the scholarship.
Wow.
That's pretty big. We have a lot of achievements as well. New York State Finals for the Science Congress, Jasmine is Dylan Gabardella. The Upstate GSHS, we had a number of students, again Dylan, again Jazz. But what's very important is that we have students that also get to publish scientific papers. And they work with their mentor, and eventually we have some scientific publications that get published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. That is the case for Jazz. We had a paper come out last year from his a research that he did while he was still in high school. It takes a little while to get the paper out and get it accepted for publication. And Dylan Gabardella has his paper under review right now, so it's been submitted. Moreover, it is not just about the prize, it is also about creating and motivating scientists for the future that will continue working in science. A lot of our students continue working in their labs after in college, in grad school, or they continue doing similar work. This was the case, I can't even read myself up there, but there's the case of Jazz. My daughter Cassandra can continue working. Jonathan Chung went back to work in Regeneron. Jordan Hudock went back on an internship to work on Regeneron. Jen Milsetic worked again in the lab. Tiffany Porras and Melanie Porras. And Melanie Porras just creating a venture company while in Princeton, working on environmental sustainability, which was her projects in science research. So you have people that are not only doing their projects and program in the high school, but they're taking it with them in college and in grad school. And that's really, really important. And Audrey Echt, I believe, is still working in your lab several years after she was done graduating. I've chosen this to show you this book, which I have here. This is going to be required reading for you this summer. It is called Fail, Fail Again, Fail Better. Because we're talking a lot about students winning competition. That's a great thing. It's quite admirable and it's a good thing. But not everybody wins, but everybody learns from science research. And they learn by failing. And failing a lot, like in real life. And learning to fail and pick themselves up. Because the definition of success is what we have to look at. What does it mean to be successful? Does it mean to be accepted in college? Does it mean to get 100 on a test? Or does it mean to have achieved something quite considerable over a number of years? To be able to pick yourself up when you fail and be resilient and learn a certain amount of grit, which is what they're going to need when they go to college and when they go to medical school and when they go to grad school. And that's very important, and I feel this program is particularly geared toward that type of thing. This is the thing that you will not read in the curriculum book, but this is the thing that students will really learn when they are taking this program. I spent my first year in graduate school when I was doing my PhD. There was not one experiment for an entire year that worked. Not one. everything was failing successively. We have students that hit roadblocks all the time in science research, but they're also getting all the support to overcome these roadblocks, and that's really important. An experiment can fail. A student may not have data or the data they want. They might get a mentor that gets sick. That happened this year with one of my students, a senior. The last opportunity to do some research comes July, before the senior year. The finish line, basically, we're just working on a project, and the mentor disappears out sick with leukemia. And now she doesn't have any guidance. And this was really, really catastrophic for her. But I worked with her, we worked together, we just put everything we had, and we bring it back up. We became very creative, and she finished her project. And she finished the project, she went on to compete, she was able to put together a paper. So when you are learning how, oh, excuse me, I need that. When you are learning how to fail, you're also learning how to pick yourself up. You're learning to have a fresh look on things, and you're learning to become creative. And this is maybe the part of the curriculum you're not going to see written anywhere. And the rest of it is written in this PowerPoint, really. So, as you know, and I'm going to really do this very quickly, this is a 3-year program. It starts at the sophomore year, case by case, on an individual basis, depending on the students. Freshmen can be accepted. It really trains people to work in a real lab, have real research experience. We are not talking about canned lab that always work. We're talking about real experiments that most of the time fail. They establish real connections with scientists. They learn how to write and present their research result. And mostly they establish connections. Connections with scientists, connection with colleges, university research labs. My role is not to teach them, it's more really a shift completely into coaching them and what I said before, which is a student-centered classroom and project-based teaching. Something I learned recently is that the students, well, we know that the students get up to 12 credits at SUNY at Albany. By the way, the passing grade, just reminding the students that may be watching you down, but you're not, is 83 for SUNY. But what I learned from my daughter the other day, just passing by, I was having dinner with her, I was up in Boston, and she said, you know, by the way, I want you to know that the 12 credits from science research, they kind of average that in my bachelor's degree GPA. I say, how come? Well, they say, when I applied to medical school, they took my bachelor's GPA, they wanted to have all of the undergraduate credits averaged into that GPA. So she had a 4.0 on those 12 credits from SUNY, that kind of boosted up a GPA quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And that is different than AP, just an AP credit. Mm-hmm. So, and you get in a high school an AP credit towards the high school GPA. We do a lot of fun things, I believe, right? And Thea organizes a lot of them too. Dinners, Christmas party, the secret scientists. We have picnics. We go down. We went down last year to a for a picnic. We do a lot of things like a team, because a lot of the students work together. They have a secret messaging group.
It's not very secret, yeah.
I'm not on it. I don't know what's being
Good thing
said
it's not on
behind
video.
my back. But they exchange ideas and they talk to one another. And they exchange best practice and so on. Before I jump towards the end of the PowerPoint to give yourself a little bit of time, and mostly I want to give them the time to present, what are the pros and cons? I think the pros are very important. Students pick their project and they run their project. They run their project at their own pace. They have to meet certain checkpoints along the way, but they run the project at their own pace. They learn a lot of college readiness skills, which is very important. Scientific literacy, extremely important because they take a lot of English classes, but they do not know how to write in the scientific language, how to read in science, how to understand the statistics, how to read a paper, to be critical of the paper. And it's important to be critical of what you read these days, because not everything is actually correct, especially what you see online. And how to write in the scientific language. They're pretty competitive, and so that's the best thing you can do as far as college skills are going. One of the problems we're having is overbooking. There is a lot of anxiety towards college applications. Everybody wants to pile up APs on top of APs, on top of sports, on top of drama club, on top of music, on top of club for this, club for that, club, you know. And so we're having people that are overstretched in a lot of ways, and that are really stressed and have less time to give to science research. But let's not forget that science research counts like an AP class. So when you are taking it for 3 years, it's also like taking an AP. And I speak from experience because I had a daughter that took the program. Granted that she took it with me, but it's a little bit different. But and when she went through a college application, and before even we knew, before the third quarter, right at the beginning, in the first quarter of senior year, and she was doing all this college application, and she started to send her application out. From the moment she put in her application that she competed for the science talent search, and that she did work in science research, you had colleges calling home and begging her to come. And that's without knowing yet. I mean, she ended up being valedictorian, but that's enough. That's even before that. So it is a great impact. This is really the passport to colleges. I had Smith College dean writing a handwritten letter telling her, please come, we're begging you, please come. I said, where's the scholarship? Then we come. And they did give her a scholarship, but she ended up going to McGill. But what I'm saying is that this is really an important skill. Colleges, universities know what's happening in science research because they have the experience of many, many years of students competing either at STS or ICEF, or before that, what was called the Westinghouse competition. So that's, you know, over time of overbooking is a real problem. So I would really tell parents to really think about what you want to do, and remember what is the definition of success that you're looking for your kids. You're looking, what is it that you're looking for? You're looking for them to be prepared for colleges, or you're looking for them to have the perfect resume, which everybody else will have. So that's really something that's kind of important. I'm going to pass on all these slides. You can look at them on your own. That's your homework. How we grade on effort. What are the progression over the years of what we're doing, what we do in terms of literacy. There's a lot of literacy. How we write a paper. Just going to quickly say that the paper, we start writing it in the sophomore year and we finish it in the senior year. So it's a progression over 3 years. So it's not really 20 pages that you have to write in 2 months in a senior year. Although some people do that. Guilty as charged. We can see, yes, right? So I am going to pass on all this stuff in here. Just going to invite everybody that wants to come at the symposium this year. It's going to be happening on May 30th. I do believe it's a Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday at 7 p.m. in the high school library. And we'll be giving you the yearly newsletter, which is something that is being showcased, as a matter of fact, by SUNY to other schools in the region, because they really like what we're doing with our newsletter, and thanks for the HSCEF for funding that. And again, I want to show the recognition that we had. The Hedwig Wilson High School was recognized for Society of Science in 2010, 14, 15, and 17, with the 4 semi-finalists and 1 finalist. Was recognized for the ice sweep competition. Unfortunately, the ice sweep competition does not exist anymore. It was happening in Houston, and after the hurricane, they were unable to continue having this competition. I was recognized with the Teacher of Merit Award 2014, 15, and 17. And I was invited to present the science research program for this high school and what we are doing here in 2017 in Los Angeles. And this is a little bit a remake of that presentation that I put out there 2 years ago. We were invited at the Science Research Teacher Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2016 and 2017. And in 2017, they actually asked me to present 2 sessions during that weekend where they're bringing science research teachers from the entire country. Really quickly, those are the universities which we have collaborated with since 2006, which was the beginning of this program. So now we are in our 13th year of this program. So we, as you can see, we have collaborated with many universities, notably Columbia University. Dr. Quick is right here. He has mentored 4 of our students. And if you see Exeter University in the UK, you wonder if the student went to work there. That was Melody Muniz. She did her entire project over Skype. With the professor in the United Kingdom. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute was Melanie Porras, who worked there, and was also a semi-finalist the same year as Jonathan was finalist. We're operating on very little, actually. We are printing posters, which you will get to see in a minute. Parents have helped us make wooden boards over the years, so they're volunteering. If you know anybody that wants to cut some wood on the weekend, please send them to me. We have a few boards that we would want to make. Students use lab notebooks and portfolios and database subscriptions to do their research. That's basically it. I have a wish list. Where is Mr. Matthew?
Yes, she does.
That is my Christmas wish list. I'm sure not everything can be obtained, but I put it there, you know, just in case. It's the Board of Ed after all. I came onto this wish list by visiting a number of high schools in the region. Among the most successful high schools that have science research program, which is Ossining High School, Yorktown High School, Barra Mills High School, Hartsley, Chappaqua High School, and Briarcliff High School. Those are the schools I visited when we were looking at the first time we were looking at redoing our labs and our high school classes. So we went there and visited a number of schools. In those schools, the most successful schools, they have a lot of students. Close to 100 students in the program. They're also bigger high schools. They do have a foundation, just like we have an art foundation, parent foundation, and they have a dedicated budget that works together with this foundation. They have a dedicated classroom, and some schools, Barra Mills was the case. I don't know if they still have it, but at the time I had one daughter that went to Barra Mills. They had a local research lab in the high school where some projects would be done in a little corner of a science classroom that was equipped just for that. It would be my wish, really, that we create a program in the middle school. There is a Broadcom Master competition that is operating. This is a STS for middle school that is operating for middle school. It would be a great pipeline for the students in the middle school to start working on the same methods, and then just go up to the high school. We offer, occasionally we have a freshman or two that decide to take the research class early enough, but they encounter a number of difficulty with the skills and so on, so maybe a semester class to teach them an introduction to research and basic lab techniques for freshmen would be a really good thing. And I was kind of thinking that at some point, might not be right now, maybe in 10 years, who knows, there is a AP seminar and AP research that leads to the AP capstone diploma, which is 4 APs together. That could be implemented. The curriculum is very similar to what I'm doing. So I'm kind of more or less doing what they're doing. It's just not having the name AP seminar or AP research. So that's something that you might want to consider in the future. Science research classroom, like I've seen them, for instance, in Barra Mills, and is more of an athletic lunch. The Ossining classroom is like that. Students come and eat their lunch in there and chat with each other and chat about their project. We have modular desks and tables.
You're looking the right way. I got it.
Yeah,
Understood.
A section for private meeting and all these things, so as things that could be interesting. A research area would be as well interesting, and that's really a much more heavy type of thing to do. But that would give an opportunity for the students to do some research, for instance, on things that are not contagious or dangerous, in plants, for instance, or plant science, some type of bacterial, not dangerous type of bacterial experiments that they could do. They could be trained in lab techniques, and other classes could sign up as well to use the lab. You could even rent it to the schools. I don't know, I'm thinking,
Get some money out of
we
it.
could do, I was on the train coming back from Washington, D.C. for the Science Research Conference, and I was browsing, brainstorming with some colleagues. What could we do to bring, let's create a lab and let's start renting them to school district so their science research students can come and work. So,
See what happens when you put a bunch of scientists on a train.
so those things that happen at the research conference. I let you read the students' testimonial. When Mr. Giovinazzi asked me to do this way back in December, I put out a survey to all our alumni students, and I wanted to have some honest feedback, and I got it. And I put together in a few slides for each student what they did, where they are now. Since you are here, I just might as well put Jonathan as a finalist. This is a screenshot I took when he got his medal at the Society for Science Gala Award ceremony. And so they gave advice to the students. They gave some ideas about what they wanted to do. Melanie Porras, click the link. We're not going to do that right now, but we don't have the time, but take a look at what she's doing right now. This is really fantastic. She's in Princeton as well. Isabella Brizzi is in Cornell. Deepa in SUNY Binghamton. Jen Milstekic is right from New Zealand doing an exchange program with Smith College. Jazz Muniz, this is the list of awards he had on the left. It's kind of impressive. Worked with nanoparticles as well in Mount Sinai. And he wrote so much, I would probably have needed 2 slides, but I had to pick up the highlights of what he wanted to say. Dylan Gambardella as well was a gold prize, gold medal in ice sweep. So those are very, very successful students. Audrey Egg was a semi-finalist of Intel. Tiffany Porras, and I'm going back in time. And Dan Briggy, which some of you may know, is very successfully doing a medical school program, and is continuing in sports science, sport medicine, based on what he did in science research. So I'm going to turn it to these wonderful students here, and they can show you their work.
Thank you.
Do you want us to say like a word about like what's like kind of like who we are? Or?
This is Thea Barber.
Just introduce. They're not going to understand what you're talking about.
She's a senior.
I'm a senior, so this is my 3rd year in the program. I mean, do you want us to talk about? I don't know. You want us to talk about?
Explain quickly. Yeah.
Quickly. So, my project is an animal science project. So I'm actually focusing on honeybees and other native pollinators that we have in New York. And basically what I'm working with is the hidden ultraviolet markings on flowers that are invisible to the human eye but are visible to pollinators. And it's a little silly, it's like an ultraviolet flashlight, and I go out and I work with that. And I'm basically coating these flowers with sunscreen the same way that you would for your skin. And when you get rid of these markings, the flowers are really unattractive to our pollinators. So they don't come into contact with as many pesticides or any other dangerous substances that might be on these flowers. And that was able to be done with some funding from HED, so thank you. And then I also did a little like secondary mini study where I took honey samples from some local apiaries, notably from Yorktown, and I sent these samples overseas to Germany to be analyzed for the presence of pesticides, and thankfully those all came back negative, so you can eat your honey. And that's pretty much the gist.
So, where did you work originally? What was the lab?
So my lab was the T-Town Nature Preservation, and my first year, my sophomore year, I did TESA, the T-Town Environmental Science Academy, which is a summer program where in the morning you get, it's a class environment, you're out in the field and you learn all about environmental science, and then in the afternoon you get to do your own independent research. That's kind of where this idea came from. And then, unfortunately, after that, my mentor, Hillary Steiner, left New York, so she was no longer my mentor, but then her colleague became my mentor, and then she had a baby, so then she couldn't help me. So then, this past summer and throughout my senior year, I had kind of like an interim mentor, but then she didn't know me, so she couldn't help me as much either. So
you were working alone?
Pretty much, yeah. So this is almost all entirely independent work.
Awesome.
Yeah. And how did you come with this idea?
So it was kind of funny. So movies like the Bee Movie or anything, if you've seen Honey Nut Cheerios, sometimes they'll take the little bee off the box to raise awareness for something called colony collapse disorder, which is affecting honeybee populations in the United States as well as around the world. So honeybees are a keystone species, meaning that despite their really small biomass, they're like the keystone in a bridge, so if they die out in an environment, the entire environment will collapse. So basically I just kind of wanted to pick any topic that could help that, because I think they're really, really important around here and around the entire world.
Wow.
Great.
So,
What are you doing with this? What's next?
So I'm a senior and I'm going to go to SUNY Binghamton next year, and I was accepted into the FRI program, which is the Freshman Research Immersion program. So I'm going to be studying with 29 other kids, something similar like this for the next 4 years. So.
Do you do your own project or something else?
I'm not sure. It's kind of like we all decide what we want to do, but it does help because their program is kind of like science research on steroids. So it's very similar where you're reading a bunch of papers and you're picking a topic, and then we're just working as a group instead of as an individual.
Okay. Very cool.
great. And you were first place. Oh, you got to say.
The past 2 years, I placed first place in animal science and plant sciences at JSHS, which is the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, and then this past year I placed in WestF as well.
Awesome. Very nice.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And that's an example of what you do with projects that are self-generated, really.
Yes.
Not working in,
Imagine.
complicated things. This is very complicated in a stance. She had to do all the statistics and we struggle with all, and chi-squares and all these things. But she did work on her own. really work on her own at her own pace. And she even was working at the same time that she was doing her research. So this is a completely self-generated as opposed to working in a bigger lab with a group. And it's very valid. Both of approaches are very valid.
Mhm.
It's my turn now. Alright, so I'm James Riley. I'm a junior at Hendrick Hudson High School, and I'm in my second year of the science research program. So my project is more of a cellular molecular project. So as I started to read through papers, I saw that there was a connection between the gut and the brain, specifically with mental illnesses. So children that are diagnosed with mental illnesses have really bad gastrointestinal issues and stuff like that. So there was nothing really on how that interaction occurs and how that is related. So I started to look into it more and saw that if you change the microbial balance or change the microbacteria in mice, it alters their behavior. Still, there was nothing on the molecular level about how the gut is changing something in the brain and then resulting in a behavioral change. So what I did was looked at the dopamine transporter, which is a neurosignaling molecule in the brain. So when a transmission goes through the brain, dopamine is used to bind and transmit to the next neuron. So then the dopamine transporter takes the dopamine back into the cell after that transmission occurred. So the expression of that is how much protein is being produced or how much dopamine transporters are on the membrane of the cell. So I wanted to see if the expression and the function of the dopamine transporter, how well it takes in the dopamine, can affect or can be changed with bacterial metabolites. So bacterial metabolites are compounds that are produced by bacteria as they go through metabolic processes, to put it simply. So like respiration and digestion and things of that nature. So I took these molecules and interacted them with HEK cells, which are a type of cell culture, that had the dopamine transporter gene expressing, so there were dopamine transporters on the cell. So first I looked at the expression and didn't really see any significant changes in the expression levels or how many proteins were there. And then I also saw about the function of the dopamine transporter, so like why does this matter? So currently what's used to treat mental illnesses are very harsh psychostimulants that bind directly, for instance, to the dopamine transporter and are very hard to take off and have very bad other bodily side effects. So I saw that one metabolite can actually increase the function of the dopamine transporter. So say if you have a mental illness that has decreased function of the dopamine transporter, then you can introduce a bacteria that produces that metabolite, which can then cross into the brain and alter the function of the dopamine transporter and increase the function and then get more dopamine out of the synapse. And that could then change and cause a new way for the treatment of mental illnesses in a more natural way using probiotics. Yeah. I know that's a lot to take in.
Did you try it on anybody?
I did not, no.
Younger cousins.
Younger cousins?
Is it you that left the probiotics on my desk?
Very
Yeah.
nice.
That's outstanding.
Thank you.
So does that mean this is finished? I'm
Oh, no.
so now what happens next year?
So this was this is last summer, going
Okay.
into my junior year. So then this summer I'll be going back into the lab and look at it more of a behavioral side using flies. So this is more of a molecular look at it. So then I'll go back, not using mice, but using flies to see if the metabolites that I selected in my previous study will then change the behavior of the flies.
You're at Columbia, right?
I am at Columbia, yes.
Is this your
With
mentor?
Dr. Quick.
I'm doing project.
He's behind the
He's
phone.
out there. You're a good man.
Yeah.
Man behind the curtain.
Very
Great.
nice.
Great.
Nice job.
Very
You get extra credit points. I don't know if you want to say something, Mr. Chung and Dr. Gray.
Yeah, I can say something. So yes, as Christine mentioned before, I'm mentoring. I have been mentoring for students from Hennard. I've been mentoring also students from other schools in Westchester County. And I think a couple of points you showed in the first slide were very important because coming from high school, going to a research lab is a major bottleneck for most students. When they come, it's like this huge lab in the university setting, and to get adapted to this kind of environment is very tricky, can take some time. People don't overcome their reservations basically, but I have to say that Hennard students are well prepared for this Christine's program. So all the students came to the lab, they had a very clear idea of what they want to do. They worked very hard, I mean, Johnson's case, he came, he had an hypothesis for his project. It didn't work out. This basically was the push for him to think even harder, and this made this project such a big success because he didn't receive what he expected, what you would expect in a school setting where the teacher tells you what to do, you fulfill your duties, but in a lab, life is different. Failure is part of the program, and if you fail and then you give up, it's the end of your whole science career. But if you then continue, this makes you a leader in your field. And this is something that was the strong point in Johnson's research. And James has shown this, and Buhek, who's currently or just finished. Those are the things that really are important to succeed in I think in life, not just in the research lab, but you can see the research lab as a mirror of life, basically. So I'm happy to have more hands.
Thank you. Thank you very
Being
much.
in September.
Hi, I'm Bill Chung. Yes, I also wanted to add to what Dr. Quick said. I saw firsthand, both as a as a judge at West F and as having a child go through the program, that it's not just all about what you win or you don't win, but it's the actual process itself. I was telling Dr. Quick that one of the failures Jonathan had while working in this lab was he ended up on a downtown train, right, because the uptown trains were not running. What do you do? So just these real-life skills of being able to navigate his way through the city and learning to deal with an actual professional lab and professionals is a big part of that experience, especially for our kids up here who may not be quite so used to that. And also now that he's at school, Princeton requires everybody to do a senior thesis. And this is a 2-year experience that you work up to, just like science research. Sound familiar? And most of the students get very stressed about that. But it's interesting to note that in Jonathan's case, it's just science research. He can take everything he learned with Dr. Rogers, and he's not stressed about it at all, about finding an advisor, a mentor next year, and then having to, start his independent work next year. So I think that's a very big thing. And then I'll just end by saying that it's very, very clear from, when I interview students for schools, it's very clear that the science research program is HM. It makes something really stand out about Henot, and that's a large part due to Dr. Rogers, support from the Board of Ed and from Mr. Atmakin. So I want to give my personal thanks for that, because it's very clear to me and to others. I hear it, at WESAP, people saying, wow, this is really one of the things that makes Henot special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other?
I thought I was here just to carry the board, but I just love the way that Thea has thrived with this program and how it's really given her a purpose. And she's not wavered in her decision. She's going to school for environmental science, and that is no small part, and just due to Dr. Rogers and how wonderful she is.
Thank you.
I would absolutely like to. No, hands down, I can tell you, my son has, Danny, if he'll ever get out of school, Danny has very much benefited. He was one probably early on, and he worked with one of the and Danny plays baseball. Danny loves baseball, so he was able to make the connection with the team doctor for the Yankees, and that's who he worked with doing the Tommy John surgery. And that was, I mean, that was like the perfect marriage of all of his favorite things. And then, he's still using this as he, right now he's 2 years, he's working on his MBA, but he's going back to med school in a year. But his main focus is orthopedics, and it's absolutely, and you can completely track it back. And again, the nice, wonderful part about, like you, Thea, is exactly you found something you loved and you were able to just run with it. And it's something that you can, it's something that speaks to you, and that, just mentally, emotionally, philosophically, all of those ways. And he really did. And when he did do his and baseball was that for him, and he was able to do this.
I remember that.
When he went to college, though, it was a tremendous opportunity to say these things that he did. It gave him something to write about. It gave him something to talk about, and it showed an ability to function at a college level, because that's what this work is. Because it wasn't as big a crapshoot for a college to say, "Wow, this is somebody who can succeed doing this work," and be a successful, within the college community, not just, limited to a high school sort of function. So I have nothing. Dr. Rogers, she and I have spoken over the years. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thing for Danny, and I can't say enough about it. I'm just, that's the downside to all of these wonderful programs at the high school, because my second son wound up doing something else. He wasn't, but again, it set them up for the future, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that both the high school and Dr. Rogers brings to these children. And thank you.
Thank you.
As a parent and as a board member, that you do these things and you give so much of yourself to the students. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I know we're getting into the evening, but I think, a characteristic of a great leader, and in this case a great educator, is not taking credit for anything. And I think we'd be remiss if we did not recognize, and we've heard from parents, but we recognize the commitment of a true educator who understands what she needs to do and how to guide these students through what they are finding a passion in. But Christine, you are truly a remarkable person. I don't know that we could ever really track the number of hours outside of the school day that you spend, the weekends, the communication that I get a taste every once in a while of just from Dr. Rogers keeping me in the loop late on a Sunday evening. Hey, we're sending out the last of the applications for this competition or that. It's something to behold. It's really, we're very, very lucky. And we may not have 100 or 200 kids in our program, but the kids that go through our program get such a different experience, I would say, than some of those other programs that are regarded as, the better or best or whatever. I think we have the best program because we have the best kids, but we have the best instructor that we can have. So we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize your efforts. So
thank you for your support. Every time I come and ask for something, I get a yes, which is very nice, I think it's really great. And I also want to thank you for your support.
Thank you.
And also, I want to thank also the other science teachers in Winchester, because we are a group of people, and we work together. Mr. Bluglass in Yorktown High School is really the department chair for science research for Winchester. He invites everybody 3 or 4 times a year to his house, and we have a department meeting on a Friday night. It starts at 3 p.m., finishes generally at midnight, and about 10 p.m. we start playing Cards Against Humanity, but that's besides the point.
That's a wrap.
That's how we finish our work together. But we exchange best practices, and I have to say, even though last week when we were at NICEF, Mr. Bluglass did not hesitate to come and help Paul Williams with this project. He told him what he should be doing, how he should be presenting, how he should be putting his poster together, and he didn't have to do that. He's just an educator, and it's not about competing against each other, it's about working together. And that's been really important among all the districts here in Rochester.
And I'm sorry, Dr. Quick as well, as a community
Yes,
member and as a
absolutely.
mentor, he has been as dedicated from the start, has done everything from mentor students to set us up to be able to accumulate science equipment that they were just going to kind of throw away and we could use. He has been a tremendous, tremendous asset. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done.
So do I.
Just true servant to the program.
Yes.
There's nothing too big that we could ask him to do, and we're really appreciative for
Yes,
that.
thank you so much. You had so many of us students, and then you come and watch them rehearse. It's really nice.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, now on to the most exciting portion of our meeting.
Yes, we move on to budget presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, just as a recap and for everyone watching at home, we we pushed up our budget calendar this year for a number of reasons, but one is that New York State has added some additional mandates in terms of school district responsibilities to communicate certain budget documents, but specifically budget newsletter, property tax report card, and other documents in Spanish. And so a lot of districts were getting anxious about having things translated and limited number of avenues to have things translated. So as you remember, when we came out of the new year, we started the budget presentations, our first meeting in January, so that we could meet our not only our budget deadline requirements with the state, but our reporting requirements with having things translated in Spanish. So at the end of this presentation, the last slide is basically just the board affirming that this is our budget going forward. We'll have our budget hearing in early May, and Roseanne can send everything off to the printer to get things ready for our budget vote. So with that, Enrique's here to give us the final tally.
So the state asked us to do it in Spanish, so we'll speak in Spanish. So thank you very much. You won't hear from me for much either tonight or in the next couple of board meetings because this is the final. We are getting there. Tonight we're going to ask the board to approve the budget. The budget started in January 9. The last meeting we had this same presentation in which I asked the board to look at the whole presentation and see if they have any changes. Our preliminary budget is $80 million, which is an increase of 0.64%. Our preliminary tax levy is $43,737,000, which is an increase of 2.63%. And we are planning to use $1.393 million as fund balance to help for the budget next year. On the cap information, the New York State cap is 2% since inflation was 2.44%, and as you all know, is the lowest of 2% or inflation. Our cap is going to be 2.64%. It's always different because there's exclusions to the cap. We had several exclusions to our cap, and that's why our cap is higher than the New York State cap. And again, our cap is an increase of 2.64%, and it's an increase of $1.1 million. Our other revenues include state aid and BOCES, other income. Another income is mainly Lisa's program. As you know, we invite students from other districts to our ABC program and our Sailor program. They pay us tuition, so we have other income, sales tax. This number, as you might heard in the news, might go up because now they want to increase the sales tax in the county so we can get more money. So, you know, mixed news. For your pocket, bad news. For the school, good news. Transfers. These are transfers that we do on a yearly basis. And finally, the pilots, that's $26.69 million. That's Indian Point and Presco pilots. Here, as we mentioned last time, you can see the budget, tax levy, and tax cap. You can see how in some years we were way below the tax cap or the inflation. In this year, we're a little bit higher than both. Here you have all the revenues that we looked before. As you can see, tax levy represent the biggest part. That's going to be $43.7 million. The pilots represent about 36%, and then the rest is, like we mentioned, state aid, other income, sales tax, and fund balance. On the expense code, as you know, we always have to present it under government accounting, which is curriculum and instruction, capital and administrative. We always strive to have about 80% or more than 80% in instruction, so it goes directly to the students. This year is approximately 82%. Finally, the tax rate. For Town of Portland, the increase will be 2.19%, which is an assess of 1,028 per assessed value. I'm sorry, a rate of 1,028 per assessed value. And City of Peekskill will be a decrease of 4.1%, or $476 per 1,000 of assessed value. Any questions or comments?
I would just like to thank you very much for all
Thank
of your
you.
efforts, and the Finance Committee, because I know it's many hours of additional work on top of your regular board work. So I thank all the members, and I thank you, Enrique,
Thank
for
you.
working so diligently.
So
Thank
if
you.
there's no more questions.
I have one.
or- Yes, please.
How come Portland always goes up and Peekskill always goes down?
No, last year it was the reverse.
Right
Okay,
here.
once.
I agree.
That's a lot
This
that
this has to do with equalization rate. Basically, the state decides, ORBS, it's a subsidiary of the state, they decide on a yearly basis how much did your house went up compared to the one in Peekskill. And this year they decided that it went up more than the Peekskill. So they give you a ratio that it's higher and therefore it goes up. So basically, when you sell your house, supposedly, you are going to be able to sell it at a much higher price because it's in Town of Portland than if you had the same house in Peekskill. You ask me
You tell me.
how they do it, I have no idea. Are they usually wrong? I'm almost sure they are usually wrong. But that's a state, you know.
That's probably it, right?
But last year, it was a decrease of about 4% for Town of Portland and an increase for Peekskill. But without any doubt, if you had asked me before, I would have brought the graph that shows over the last 10 years how much taxes have gone up in Town of Portland compared to taxes going down in Peekskill, because over the since the cap, taxes have gone down in Peekskill. Yeah,
We all go to the same school district.
and they all get the same education.
That's right.
So,
So you know how I feel about that one.
so,
You're not usually clear, we don't know.
so if you don't have any more questions, then please read the resolution and vote. And the resolution says, resolved that the Board of Education of the Henry Hudson Central School District be authorized to expend the sum of $80,040,270 during the fiscal year 1920 and general tax levy thereof.
So can I please have a motion to accept the budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is committee reports. And I will say, last night I attended French and Lindsay PTA, And they were very interested in when the report will be done by the group that we have commissioned. And we talked a little bit about that no decisions will be made without public input, and we haven't even seen the results. So, probably in the summer at some point, we will have the information back and we will discuss it and have it open to the community.
What report is
This is the report.
cost analysis for elementary, middle, and high school, redistricting, school closure, those things.
Right. So that was brought up, and some people, I had said as well, that budget books, once we approve the budget books will be available in our schools and in the library and in the district office, so people may get them.
And they were last week. Right?
Oh, they were already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? How was the information gleaned for the report? Was there a survey? Were there?
No,
We haven't done it yet. They're
all
in the
right.
process of.
Oh,
Yeah, they're in the
so there's gonna
process
be a
of
survey?
analyzing all of our information, looking at class sizes, bus
No,
routes,
nothing's
salaries.
Okay.
They're working on it. No one has seen anything.
Anything.
They're
Okay.
asking
Yeah.
for additional
And
information.
that was the point, there's a lot of rumors out in the community as to what's going to happen. And what I have instilled in everybody is that there's no decision until the decision is made. And we're the body that ultimately has to make the decision, but that's until we have all of the input, we can't do that. So that was an issue that we discussed. And out in the community, no matter where I go, or I'm sure where Joe goes, where Margaret goes, where Lisa goes, there are people with rumors, and I just want to dispel those rumors that nobody has made any secret decisions and nothing has been decided. So trust me, and trust this board that there will be time for people to come and comment, and we will value your opinion, as long as it's given in a very respectful manner. That being said, tomorrow Lisa and I have safety committee meeting. I'm sure you have.
Actually, it's been kind of quiet. BV had their PTA meeting earlier in the month, and I did attend that. There's been book fairs happening at both BV and Furnace Woods School. BV is at Ashokan this week. Furnace Woods went last month. And BV had a beautification day, and Furnace Woods is having one the end of this month. So that was pretty
I think
much.
Franchi also had, there were
I'm
pictures on
assuming
Twitter.
it's, that time of year. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
We had a policy committee meeting this week, and one of the policies we'll be reviewing this evening. The other one that we're working on is the student health services policy, which needs some revisions, and we'll be bringing that to the board when those revisions are ready.
Anybody else? Okay, very good then. We can move on to policy reading. We have a first reading on our policy.
So this is, as we talked earlier in the year, Lisa has been working with our attorneys on making sure all of our special ed related policies are up to date and meet all of the ever-changing state and federal requirements. So the board approved a set of policies around Thanksgiving, and the attorneys went back and reviewed the next set, and this is one of a few special ed policies you'll see throughout the spring and into the summer. The policy is pretty straightforward, talks about least restrictive environment. Some changes or additions were made in red. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to give a quick overview and then we'll get into it.
So it's really talking about our students being included as much with peers of their own without disabilities, as much as we can, keeping placements either in-house or as close to school or their students' home as possible. I like to say as close to their home school as possible. And really making sure that continuum of placement is available to all students.
Did you have something?
Unless it's, well, keep reading, unless it's severity, I missed that sentence.
So,
Are we gonna read?
It's been 8 years since, or 10 years since this is.
Yeah, that's why.
Lisa's found a few of them that we need to.
Most of them are over 10 years old,
Yeah.
about 10 years that we have to
And some
review.
of them, as I said, are in response to changes that, federal or state mandates. We get our updates from NISBA, but also we have other sets of eyes looking at
But
those.
has this changed dramatically? I mean,
No.
that's what I was gonna say.
It's not a lot of change. It's very minute. It's really the bullets 1, 2, and 3, and then just adding some that we make sure that there's a continuum available for all students.
Yeah,
I
I
know,
noticed
it's
that
not-
the other
it's not
day in a different
showing.
meeting.
Red is 1,
I don't
2,
get
and
it.
3, and part of that paragraph under it.
Yeah,
The
but
projector has red, green,
On
blue,
that screen it
Oh.
shows.
and the red.
It's the projector. Corey was right. Look at that.
That's the-
because it's on the
Yeah,
computer
that's
screen.
I'm just reading the 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So this is policy number 4321.1, provision of special education services in the least restrictive environment. The Board of Education recognizes its responsibility to ensure that students with disabilities eligible for special education programs and
Move to
services.
waive reading of 4321.1.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
This is really no different. It just looks like it elaborates more on what it
Exactly.
defines least restrictive.
Well, I think that wasn't done previously, and I think especially given today's climate, I think that has to be identified. Correct?
And I think one of the really important things in there is talking about a continuum and creating a continuum as close to that student's home as possible. Because some kids could be on a bus for 2 hours getting to placement. They're in placement for 2 hours, they turn around and their day is over. So that was one of the big things that we talked about with the lawyers. So
That's a huge piece of like why the ABC was created.
Yep.
But even, because we were sending some of these students so far away, and they were little ones.
And you'll see too, the districts that are now sending us the students are so close. Even with Putnam, PNW BOCES only being 12 miles away, but think about the kids that are coming here. Peekskill, it's a 5-minute drive, right? So I think that's a very important piece. And they're integrated in a school. That's the other important piece, is that least restrictive environment. It may not be their home school, but they're integrated within a school and not a special ed location.
And that's an interesting comment Lisa made about BOCES. So these policies are not just for public school districts, but BOCES as well. So for example, in the middle school, BOCES has a regional special ed program in our middle school with kids coming from many, many, many different schools. So if you're there at dismissal, you'll see buses and vans from all over the place. What BOCES does annually is they look at the number of kids and the programs that IEPs dictate, and they try to find schools that are closer to that core group of students. So sometimes we have a program, sometimes we don't. So it's not just our districts that are looking at this, but BOCES are too.
But I think as well, a lot of parents look at, these type of programs as being more beneficial to the kids because they can establish friendships and have play dates, and it's something parents are driving all over the county, which has always been a deterrent for these little kids.
Or across the river.
Absolutely.
I had a parent from Putt Valley come to visit us just last week, and their child right now is in PNW BOCES. And she said, I just want him where there's other kids.
Yeah.
Not just isolated. Because he's in a self-contained building, and some kids do need that. And I actually got to see him today, and he's cute as a button. But I think, one of the things is he'd be appropriate. So, yes, the drive is about the same for them, but it's in a school building, and he can create friends.
I know that's always been a concern. And
I don't know that really ties in with this, but you mentioned that the program at the middle school, like that sometimes does it shift, like 1 year?
Oh yeah,
It could.
Yeah, BOCES is asking us if we have space, and they're asking all
But
school
I mean,
districts.
so if we have a child who's in this program, it's like this year he may be at Blue Mountain, another maybe at like Mildred Strang.
And there's a chance that we may house a BOCES program, and we may have 0 students in there. in the-
Currently, we don't have any students.
We always have the program, but the program shifts.
Yeah,
Well, we don't-
yeah, the
we may not
program
always, yeah.
the program looks for space to try to be a more central
Continuum.
location for where the BOCES kids are coming to, like a hub.
Mhm.
So they may shop for space in Haldane or in Peekskill or with us or in Ossining based on where the majority of those kids are coming
But
from.
what you're suggesting is like a child who's in this school, like for 6th grade, maybe in Haldane for 7th grade?
if BOCES chooses to make that decision, which goes back to your point, which is why many districts have done the analysis to say create something here, even if it's not necessarily cost effective, it's easier on the kids and the families.
No, I appreciate that, but I was going to say that consistency.
Yeah.
I think that's beneficial.
When I worked for BOCES, it was difficult, to find space because most districts are losing space. They don't have enough space for all the BOCES. But then when you do that transition, we had a K-5 program, but for 6th grade, we sent them on the other end of Westchester County. So it was so difficult. So if you were a Hen Hud kid, we had a Hen Hud kid, and he was going all the way to Irvington when before we were maybe in White Plains. It's not that different, but when you think about just a 10 more minute, we think 10 more miles, but it ends up being a half an hour travel in southern Westchester.
I mean, trust me, I've passed some of those buses or stayed behind some of those buses. Exactly. No, on the way down.
Yeah.
And that's a real home for some of these
It
students.
is. And when we think about some of our kids that are coming up, some of our kids are getting on buses at 6:45, 6:15 in the morning if we're sending them down to Southern. We were having this discussion of why is this kid so tired when he gets to Putnam? Well, he has to get up at 6 because there's a huge loop that they do to get him up there. So it's interesting when we really think about our kids and what programs we need to talk about eventually making. But let's do what we have and do it well, and then let's talk about
I
expanding.
think it's tremendous because, again, having these students, I mean, and going with their brother or sister is
Yes.
just, I mean, not just for the child, but for the parent as well. I
Yes.
mean, that's huge.
Even now when we split kids in 3 different buildings, depending on where the ICT programs are, it's a struggle for our own parents. And so now, so when you think about that, it's a huge struggle for parents.
We've had some parents come to board meetings and, ask us if kids can go to the same building, can be housed. Yeah. And it's a shame because they can't, but, I know it's a strain on them time-wise, to be able to get to a building to pick kids up and, if there's parties or a show, whatever. So we sympathize, but thank you. Thank you, Policy Committee and Lisa, for joining us. Okay, new
First
board
reading, right?
business?
Wait a minute, we're not done policy.
No, we're not, it's a first reading.
Okay, just.
Yeah, we don't.
Check
we
the
don't
state. It's a
vote,
first
yeah.
reading on a revision,
So we can adopt it, or
adopt
we
it if
can.
want to.
Do you want to adopt it I thought we waited for the second reading.
Revisions, you can go after one, new policies you do two.
Well, I don't know, did you have time to read through the
Yeah,
whole thing?
we were all
Mary
busy.
Pat?
No, I'm fine with it. I just like, I was just had.
Yeah, we can adopt it.
All right, then can I please have a motion to adopt policy 4321.1, provision of sped services in least restrictive environment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Board comments, your new business? I would just like to say very quickly, and then that's it. I'm extremely impressed at the level of talent of students and faculty that we have in this district. And I would just like to thank everybody seeing the show Legally Blonde this weekend, having this presentation today, listening to Margaret and Lisa present about our students and the progress that they've made. I just would like to thank everybody for, putting children first and allowing children to develop their strongest talents. So thank you to everybody who's tuning in right now. And with that being said, can I? Yes.
Quick plug. Play for Life,
That's
April
right.
26th, it's coming up quick, 5 to midnight, and there's going to be a lot of fun games there to be played, and all for a wonderful cause, and raising money for cancer, so.
Yes, we heard, we had a presentation last night at PTA, so thank you. Anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Yoo-hoo. Anybody?
Oh, I did.